eyes on me. Yeah, where the girls are. This is how your night should be. All eyes on me.
All eyes on the prize, money supersized. G5 super fly, should be supervised. Do or die, open up your eyes, head to the sky. Keep a mean bad mommy on the side. Make a tsunami, kamikaze on the mind. Spit flow, paparazzi flash shine. Get dough, champagne, Merlot. Cash and tango, in the VIP. Now she wanna touch her ankle. Get low, mueve mami como el dembow. All eyes on me, peeping through the window. Get mine, get yours, believe it or not. In the meantime, I'ma keep my eyes on the
All
top.
eyes on me, drinks on me, girls on me, on the dance floor. All eyes on me, who will see? Man, you better come get your girls out. All eyes on me, party like a rock star. You can find me in VIP. All eyes on me, yeah, where the girls are. This is how your night should be.
All eyes on me indeed. Welcome to a brand new season 5 of the ME Show. And your strategic partner, I go by the name of Ali Midawi. This is an unbelievably amazing year for us. Let me just say, 2024, you have kicked my booty. We've had an incredible, amazing first run of the year, breaking records, building multi-million-dollar concepts in just a few short months. And we've had some challenges and we've learned a whole lot. Now, I share this with you at all time. As you know, here at the ME Studios, we like to keep it real and we like to make sure that we share every single area, every single element of whom we are, what we do, how we do it. So you two know it's not about what's marketed and what's hyped up, because I'm sure you would agree with me. Today in 2024, nobody exaggerates or hyped up or markets anything at all, right? Like everybody's saying the truth. Of course not. There's a lot of hype up marketing out there that people, unfortunately, with zero success, are promoting themselves to just have it all perfect. And it's not fair for the average individual. It's not fair to you and I, who are working really, really hard, to think that, man, I'm working so hard and somebody else just has it always made properly, perfectly all the time. Well, I'm here to tell you that that's not the case. And in true entrepreneurship, in true business, you will always fail your way forward. And in order for you to make it to the top, you must go through the dump. You must go through the challenges. You must go through the hurdles. In ME Studios, we focus on entrepreneurs, on content creators, on business developers. And today we have an incredible human being that is going to not only share his story with us, share his business with us, but of course, give us a whole lot of nuggets. I'm talking about Chicken Nuggets is going to have to sue us. McDonald's is going to have to sue us. Cluck Hugh is going to have to sue us with how many nuggets we're about to get out of him. But not only that, we are all about infotainment. That is information with a little bit of entertainment. This is not a presentation to sell a product or a service. This is truly a show that gives you valuable content so you can learn, educate yourself from a social, a political, a religious, and business standpoint. But at the same exact time, we do it with a little bit of entertainment. So I bring the best of the best friends of ours and colleagues that we not only do business with, but we do life with. And today, there is an incredible human being that I believe you're going to be falling in love with. I had the opportunity and the privilege to not only do some business with just recently, actually in the last couple of months, but I got to watch him as we grow every single day. I saw his Facebook lives. I saw his information and his content, and he would always reach out to me. Hey, I got this concept, or I have this idea. I have this travel business that I want to look into. I have this concept that I want to bring more value to the marketplace. And he's a fun human being as well. He recently just sang at the Apollo, believe it or not. We're going to get a little bit of, more information out of that. I might even challenge him and ask him to sing for us a little bit. Hopefully he is ready for that. He also had the opportunity to interview Thelma from the Good Times, the show, the TV show that is. I'm gonna be honest with you. I've never watched it. I know. Stop the hate. I know. Don't hate on me. A lot of people are gonna be like, "Are you kidding me? Where are you from?" I was born and raised in Morocco. I didn't speak a word of English, and that's probably why I did not watch that show. Last but not least, he is a diehard, hardcore Steelers fan. And I love anybody who loves anything competitive because sometimes you need that in your actual life. Now, from a business development standpoint, he is the founder and CEO of Media Boss Pro, which he takes industry leaders and turns them into icons. Ladies and gentlemen, for the very first time at the ME show and many, many times to come, the one, the only Dr. Barrett Matthews. What's up, Doc? How you doing today?
I am doing marvelously well and improving, Ali. How you doing, my man?
I am incredible. Thank you so much for taking the opportunity and giving us a chance to collaborate and just get some juice out of your story today. So first and foremost, for those who may be watching, stop the hate because look, we got a very animated, active audience, and I'm pretty sure any haters for the Steelers right now are dropping in the comments. So you want to double down and tell them the Steelers all the way, right?
Oh, it's always here's why they hate us. First of all, because nobody has more Super Bowls than we have.
Man, you had to go for the biggest one of them all. You didn't even start them
Patriots,
softly.
Patriots have as many, but they don't have more.
Let me say this. You guys have an interesting year so far because you have two top quarterbacks, one with a lot of experience and one who is no longer a rookie and has a lot of I just say games under his belt as a fresh leg. So it should be an interesting year for you guys at the Steelers, wouldn't you say?
Oh yeah, and I live here in Baltimore country, in the Ravens country, so I love it.
Woo! You are living in the enemy's land, my friend.
Mm-hmm.
I hear you on that. So let's get into your story. Obviously, first and foremost, Dr. Matthews. Not every day I interview individuals that have a PhD. Also, you're helping individuals to go from industry leaders to industry icons, which is phenomenal. I mean, you talk about taking people to the next level, and I'm pretty sure it has been stepping stones or milestone after milestone after milestone for you to make it to where you are. So tell us, where did this journey even begin for you? Or was it always in your vision board or decided that you are going to be where you are today? So tell us a little bit about how it all began for you.
Okay, well, first of all, let me just say, it's not a PhD. It's an honorary doctorate I received from a king that I work with. So I'll tell you about that later. But as far as how I got started in it, it's funny. When I was growing up, I wanted to be an architect. I used to love the Brady Bunch. And I remember Mr. Brady was an architect. And I thought that was a cool profession. And I was always good at drawing back then. And I grew up wanting to be an architect. So when I went to high school, I took drafting classes and so forth. Then when I went off to college, I was an architecture major. Little did I know that it would kick my butt. And I didn't know what I was going to do. I found myself failing out of architecture, and I didn't know what to do next. So my sister suggested, well, Barrett, you've always loved television and radio. And I'm thinking, well, who doesn't? But I didn't see it as a major. But I switched majors to mass media arts. And I'm telling you, Ali, my grades shot up. Everything. I was happy. I was stress-free. I was enjoying it. I was so involved. I was in the school newspaper, the school TV news, sportscasting. I used to host a post-game show for the football team. I used to call games on the radio. Actually, I used to call basketball games on the radio with Kevin Fraser of Entertainment Tonight. We were in school together. Then I got out of school and I was working with a news station here in DC. And that happened because while I was interning, I met James Brown of CBS Sports. He took me under his wing and helped me get a job as an assistant director for WUSA TV, the number one news station in DC at the time. And then he said, hey, how'd you like to move up to New York, work for the network? I'm like, dude, I've been telling people since I was in college I was going to work for the network. I didn't expect to do it that soon. So I got up to CBS Sports. Got a chance to work with some of my idols. I mean, it was so much fun. I was watching and working on sports in television every day. So it was like a dream job for me. And then I remember it was 1990. It was Super Bowl with the Broncos and the 49ers. And most of the crew had gone to the Super Bowl. I was still at the office in New York. And I got called into the office by the executive secretary. Her name was Sharon. And I remember she called me in, and I swear it was like the lights got dark all of a sudden and my vision got blurry, because she said, Barrett, we're not going to renew your contract. Yeah, and I was like, whoa, didn't know what to do.
How does one overcome that punch? I mean, when you think I made it,
Easy.
and then somebody brings you down.
Well,
Talk
that's
to us.
exactly what, dude. I'm thinking, God, I let my family down because everybody's proud of me at that point. I'm only like 24, 25. I'm like,
Oh,
yes.
wow.
And I mean, it hit me like a ton of bricks. And
Yeah.
the worst part was she told me all these people who had worked with me who had said that I didn't give them what they wanted or I didn't do well. And I said, I've never worked with a single one of those people.
Mm.
So that was, it left me with a strange feeling there, but I was wondering what I was going to, I didn't know what to do. I mean, I was coming up while I was unemployed. I was still coming up there to see my friends because I didn't know what else to do. And I had to make a decision. Do I go back home or do I stay here in New York and try to figure it out? So I ended up going back home and I did a little bit more work in television, but it was on a lower scale at that point. And then I just had to say, I heard a quote a long time ago that said, adversity is inevitable, but stress is optional. So I
Absolutely.
said, I'm not going to stress over this. I just got to keep moving. And I ended up getting into network marketing, believe it or not. And I got into network marketing and I learned something from it. I said, hold on. You mean to tell me that I can set my own schedule, do my own work, and I'm not going to get fired as long as I produce? I said, well, I'm going to produce. I work. And so I started doing that. And that's really when I caught the entrepreneurial bug, because I was able to do that. And from that point on, I got into different business areas. I got into real estate investing, real estate appraisal, home improvement services, all types of different businesses. But I always made sure that I could control my time and my income. But what happened was, while I was doing every single one of those businesses, there was always something that someone needed me to do that was media related. And it kept pulling me in one way. I couldn't escape it. So I ended up moving back from, I was living in Atlanta. I ended up moving back to Maryland, where I'm from. And a gentleman saw me working with a network marketing group. And he said, man, you need to be some type of coach, some type of action or productivity coach. And I said, I never thought about that. He said, yeah, but you need to write a book. So I ended up writing a book. And then I started doing an online radio show. And that led me to another one and another one. And then I was actually produce a online radio show that had like over 30,000 people in their Facebook groups. I was just doing all these different things. And I said, you know what? I need to start helping some of these business people who are watching these shows and listening to these shows to use media for their own business. So I started telling them to produce podcasts. And they weren't doing it what I was telling them to do. And I realized, I had the big epiphany, Ali. I said, people don't want to get things done. People would rather have things done. So I said, well, what if I gave them a done for you formula where I could produce their podcast for them and take away the heavy lifting and their excuses? So that's what I
Are you
started.
doing a pitch for us right now? Is this what's happening right
No,
now?
this was not a pitch. You said, how'd I get going?
Like, where's the button? Click, so everybody, whatever you see, click.
Then I realized that wasn't enough. So I said, let me give them more media. So I started giving them more. And that's pretty much how I got to where I was. It all started from me wanting to be an architect. Go figure.
Yeah, that's insane. No, and by the way, I love your story, and especially there's one common denominator there. First of all, you always put yourself in a position where there's opportunity. It seems to be the trend for you. And you're saying yes to possibilities, right? Like a lot of people say no to network marketing or business overall, any opportunity. They're either skeptical or they got trauma from whatever bad experiences on the past. But it seems that you're always putting yourself in possibility realm. The other thing is you enjoy. Let me rephrase that. You are not afraid of failing through the process. I've heard a couple of times, especially with that experience as you're working your way with video show and you're like, man, 24 years old and I'm making it. And even with all that, you dusted yourself off, you picked yourself back up, and you said, okay, what's next? What's next? What's next? What's next? And here you are today. How did that mindset translate into your relationships with your mentees or students or the individuals that you've been working with to create the same exact trajectory for them as well with their businesses?
That's a great question. I firmly believe that God put things in my way to help me to move forward. For instance, with with things like the network marketing thing. So how did I get into network marketing? It's because I got a postcard in the mail about interviewing for a position, and the name on the postcard, her name was Peggy Gist, and I said Gist. I said I knew a Gist in college, a Raina Gist. So I get to the office to interview with Peggy, and Raina is there. Raina's her daughter. It was just things like that. God had placed these things in my path so that I could see him and I could trust that he was leading me. It was a lot of things. I realized early on in life, man, that God put me here to do something different than everybody else. And most of my family worked for the government or they were in education. I just didn't want to do that. I wanted to do something different. And I remember when I was in New York working with CBS, I remember walking in December through the streets of New York, and I'm sure you can relate to this, man. It was cold. It was cold in the city of New York. And I remember looking at some people who were homeless. And I said to myself, I said, Barrett, no matter how bad things get for you, somebody has it worse. Like
Yep.
you got people that love you, you have people that care for you. So no matter what, somebody has it worse. So that's when I started just realizing that it's about my mindset and how I see these things. And I started looking at things as don't focus on the problem, focus on the solution. Because as I said earlier, adversity is going to come. It's my choice on whether I'm going to stress out about it or
You
not.
speak my language, my friend.
Am I really?
I'll tell you. I mean, there's a lot of cliche lines that we probably have heard from different individuals that we follow, but I
Mhm.
live by those. Adversity is the biggest deposit in your bank account, and I hear that repeatedly over and over and over, and it's true, right? Like a lot of people are afraid of adversity, but it's the only way you can succeed because
Only way,
it's
man.
like a video game. Every single time you fail in a stage, you just continue, restart, you play that very same stage again, and then you make it to the next, and you make it to the next.
Right, right. I like that. I like that analogy.
The other thing when you're talking about New York and someone always has it worse than you, we believe that I heard this from George Saliki back in 2011, and he used to say, I used to feel bad for the person that had no shoes until I met the person that had no feet. And that
Right.
is so spot on. And one of the things that I appreciate, you refer back to, how God put you in specific places or how God positioned you in specific places.
Mhm.
I struggled with that for a very long time. And what I mean by that is sometimes we have this, I'm going to call it this silence arrogance, right?
Mhm,
Like,
mhm.
I don't want to talk publicly about my spirituality for two reasons. Either
Yeah.
I am shy, timid, scared, feeling weird. It's like everybody's like, I don't want to go to church and raise my hands and go crazy. But then you take them on a Saturday night in front of a DJ, they don't have a reason to put their hands
Yes.
up and going crazy, right?
Right.
It's the same exact thing, but the mindset is different. But what I will tell you is I was always afraid of identifying that there is a God.
Mhm.
And I'll finish my sentence. I do know, and I've always believed that my relationship with God, with Christ, is very, very healthy. But
Yes, yes, yes.
to do what you've done, to get on a camera or a microphone, and I do a lot of public speaking engagements, and to say God has put me in this place, or God has spoken to me, or God has put on my heart, it was
Mhm.
always a fearful, very scary thing for me, where I would always think like, wow, who do you think you are that God picked you to talk to you, right? And that was just my own insecurities and my trauma from
Mhm,
my past,
mhm.
from a true flesh,
Yeah, 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 I get it.
speaking, saying like, if my father beat me up, that other spiritual father is probably not happy with me either, right? Like, and
Right.
it was, just the lack of understanding that
That's neat.
spiritual relationship and how I was placed here. I was talking to my wife 2 weeks ago. We've had well, let's just say we've dealt with the IRS this year, and we've had a lot of individuals who have gone through very unfortunate circumstances, and that kind of fell on us. They weren't
Yeah.
able to pay their bills, and we had like 40 something $1,000 of billable hours for consulting that weren't paid, and so it was just a lot of weird things that were like back to back to back to back. So
Yeah.
my wife looked at me like, gosh, she had like a moment, and she's like, are we bad people? And I was like, what? She goes like, are we being punished for something? I was like, babe, you do know that even good people can get sick because they eat bad food. I think, and this is what I said, I think that we are just out of the blessing zone, right? Like sometimes we get so caught up on the wrong things in the wrong places, not realizing that I'm working with the wrong person that is not in alignment with a godly lifestyle or with
Mm.
where I'm supposed to be. And just being outside that zone may lead for whatever shenanigans and bad things that individual is attracted into their life to
Yeah.
ruin on my life as well. So I give you a lot of kudos for identifying that God's will is real and is alive, and it is giving you the opportunities and the possibilities that you have.
Thank
We're gonna take a little break, but before we do, I just want to give you a heads up. We're going to dive so deep into all things with Media Boss Pro.
you.
And I'm going to try to get as many nuggets out of you as possible for our viewers and listeners in terms of how can you take me as a leader and turn me into an icon. We'll take
I
a
love
quick
it.
break and we'll be right back with Dr. Matthews.
They called you the boss, chief, CEO. Then they didn't need you anymore. It could have been that you were ready to retire, or maybe they were just ready to move on. Maybe you were burnt out, or just didn't perform to expectations. Regardless of the reasons, they'd moved on, and so have you. But now what? You need a challenge. You didn't become successful by taking it easy. You believe you still have a lot to offer and a lot to share with the business world. At Media Boss Pro, we believe that too. And we want to turn you into the industry icon that you are. With our team of media professionals, we want to make you the go-to person for your business expertise. This means that you will create your own media around you and put you on various media platforms that bear your name and your brand. Imagine all the people who would miss out on what you have to share if you just faded into the background. Now, imagine all the people who will grow and flourish once we make you the business presence you were meant to be. Imagine having your own podcast. Imagine having your own TV channel, your own book, your own media team, and the opportunity to be featured on several TV shows as a guest expert. This is what Media Boss Pro wants to do for you. Set up your call today and become the industry icon.
Welcome back. Ali Midawi in here, your strategic partner at the ME Studios with another episode of the ME Show. And, we're back with Dr. Matthews, and we dug a little bit into his past, into who has helped him to become who he is and what opened his eyes to the opportunities that have come forward. And so far, I am enjoying the conversation, and I know for a fact you are as well. But right now, we're going to dig onto the business side. Like I promise you, I'm going to get as many nuggets as possible out of Dr. Matthews. And let's bring him back on. Dr. Matthews, let's talk about Media Boss Pro and exactly what it means to the marketplace. Who do you help? How do you help them? And what are the results that they should expect that you would create for them? Assuming I personally send you anybody right now.
So what Media Boss Pro does, we do is we turn basically high achieving leaders, and it could be someone from a C-suite exec, a retired CEO. A lot of people retired are looking for what to do next. Retired athletes or retired coaches. And what we want to do is turn them into industry icons by leveraging media to make it so that people can find them and get all the knowledge they have and learn from them. And that way we can make them the go-to person for whatever area of expertise that they dwell in, and make it so they can be seen and heard everywhere all at once.
Now, when we talk about media, are we talking about social? Are we talking about internet, overall digital? Are we talking about the news outlets? Are we talking about primetime media? Give us a little bit more details of what we're referring to.
The answer is yes. So what
Yes, all the above.
and here's the thing, like I said earlier, I was trying to get people on podcast at first, and so I started producing podcasts for them. But then I realized that we've kind of been taught some of the wrong epiphanies. I mean, some not wrong epiphany, some of the wrong paradigms, I should say. And I had an epiphany on it, which was that we've been taught drill down on one area of media. So if you do podcasting, drill down on podcasting and get your audience there. Well, that's to say that everybody, for instance, you do a great PR work and you do a podcast. That's not to say that everybody who needs PR listens to podcasts. It's not to say that everybody that needs PR does TV. They can have their own type of media, because one thing that we know for sure, everybody consumes information through at least one form of media. The thing is, if you're not where they are, you miss them and they miss you. And that means they're going to go to the next person. So what I want people to do is to make sure you have a presence. It doesn't have to be a dominating presence, but just a presence on various platforms. So why not have a podcast and have a social media presence? Why not have a social media presence and have a documentary on your business? Why not have a documentary and a Roku TV channel? What I want to do is make sure that you can be, as I say, everywhere all at once. So that way people don't miss you. I always use the example, Ali, of Kevin Hart. And I always say, I don't care if you think Kevin Hart is funny or not. You are not going to ignore him, because Kevin Hart makes sure that he is everywhere.
Literally.
To make sure that you don't ignore him, because one thing he knows, in Hollywood, you disappear like that. And he's making sure that he does not disappear because he's staying in your face. I heard someone say recently, yeah, but he gets on my nerves. I said, then he's doing it right. So that's the way I see it.
100%. If he is living rent free in your head, you better believe it. You know, one thing that I appreciate, and I want to just kind of get a little bit more clarifications on. So, do you do the creation, the pre-production, production, and post-production, or do you just coach these individuals on becoming the authority or the icons, leveraging these different media outlets?
Well, we don't produce their content because it's their original content. But what we do is we take that content that they give us and we turn it into something. For instance, I can send a crew to someone and we can shoot a whole season's worth of podcast episodes. But while we're there, we can shoot some footage and create a documentary out of that. We can take that podcast footage and turn it into an ebook, turn it into a blog, turn it into so many different things, because we've used that content to create something else out of it. We don't need them to do the heavy lifting. What we want to do is make you the talent, turn you into the icon. So we want you to be the talent. We want you to be in front of the camera. We want you to be in front of the microphone. And what we do is we have our team come in and do the rest to make it so you don't have to do anything but be the talent.
Yeah, well, I love that. And, you know, as you were speaking, both Rich and I looked at each other and we did one of these. Rich, let's do it again. The reason we've done that is because we are the yin to your yang. We actually do creation, production, and post-production. And hence, we have multi-unit studio here in New Jersey, and you know, we'd love to service you and your community as much as we definitely would love for you to work with our community, and hence why we thought it would be perfect to have this interview. Yeah, it's great. You know, we'll have to have some conversations offline. And for those of you who are listening and watching, this is how business gets done, baby. We talk about putting yourself right in the right zone of blessings. You see what just happened? This man just proves it in real time, how he puts himself right in the right place where there's opportunity. And I'm really, really excited.
That was God again. Give God praise. That was God again.
Amen to that. Amen to that. Yes, 100%. Okay, so are there any individuals or any current clients that you are working with or have just recently worked with that you want to give kudos to, and or share with us a little bit about their experiences, or you know, what kind of impact was created with them as they went through your process?
Sure. There's one guy that Josh Tapp. He has an organization called Pantheon FM. Pantheon.fm. Josh Tapp is a genius when it comes to marketing. And I actually went to him to learn some things about marketing when it comes to my podcast.
Mm.
And he delivered what he said he was going to deliver. He delivered. But then he asked me, he said, hey, we were going to be producing podcasts ourselves, but do you think you could handle it? And I'm like, sure. So we took on some of his clients and produced their podcast for them. And I think we took like 5 clients on and produced
Nice.
their podcast for them. And he and his team could say, oh my God, this is great. We love your work. Thank you. We're going to keep referring business to you. So, and Josh and I are great friends now. And he has a mastermind. He helps a lot of people. And actually, I have to give him credit for this too, because because we're so close now. I was at first working with just business owners as far as media production. He's the one that gave me the idea, because he works with a lot of high-end professionals. He said, Barrett, you need to be working with these retired CEOs and people in that place, because you can turn them into an icon. And so, he said, you make them famous. And I'm like, I don't know about famous, but I can actually put them in front of people and get them out in the marketplace. So I got to give him credit for that. But it's been a pleasure working with Josh, and I still do work with him from time to time.
No, that's amazing. In terms of the everyday average Joe who may be wondering, well, can I do this? Is it for everybody, or do you have to be already in pre-established in business? I mean, from that ideal client avatar, or the IC, as we say, what would you say that somebody would be just ripened enough, if we use the avocado metaphor, to work with you? Is it somebody that is in the startup phase, somebody that's already established, or anybody for that matter?
It would be someone who's established or who retired from a successful career. Like I said, it could be a retired CEO or someone in the C-suite, someone in that level. Like I said, we're looking for high achieving leaders. Also, a retired athlete or a coach in that matter. The thing is, what I want to do, Ali, is I want to work with those people who have had success in their career, but now don't know what to do in the next phase, but they still feel they have a whole lot to offer to people. And I think that's a neglected area. I've even heard stories of people in that particular space that are even contemplating suicide. That's horrible. But I want to give them a purpose, make sure that they can actually be out there and be present, so people can see them and learn from them as well.
Yeah, that's phenomenal. It's fascinating to me to hear your background, and we live in a judgmental society, and I would love for you to kind of help the viewer. Things changed. I mean, you were in primetime media, whether it was radio or television, and to see how now anyone, anywhere with a microphone, internet, and a camera, or even their laptop, or even their cell phone, for crying out loud, they can actually develop their own channel, their own show, and make it a very successful media outlet. What would be some of the top 3 recommendation that you would have for a starting individual, or somebody who may be just on the verge of getting their confidence to start doing some incredible things? If you were to just hook me up on behalf of all this audience and say, all right, Ali, I'll give you these top 3 things for anybody that's watching, start doing A, B, and C, what would they be?
Sure. One is to have a purpose of why you're doing it. Don't just do it just because you think it's something cute and fun, because you will stop. You will quit if you don't have a reason behind why you're doing it. And sometimes your why has to be something very big. So that's the one thing. Have a reason as to why you're going to be producing some media for your business. Number 2, make the mistakes, man. Make the mistakes. Some of the biggest mistakes end up being something that's gold. I do my podcast. I promise you, when I do my podcast, I do not edit it. You know why? Because if I flub up someone's name, it shows my audience that I am human. And you know what? I learned something about my audience. They're human too. So they like the fact that I can be authentic and real. So that's another thing. Make your mistakes. Don't worry about making mistakes, because that's the only way you're going to grow. And lastly, always be willing to move to the next level. Don't be afraid to step up. Don't be afraid to step up to the next level, because it's going to be there. It's kind of like what Ali was saying about me, about opportunity. It's going to be there. Don't be afraid to step up. One of my friends, he says, Barrett, I want to work with you on something, but I think you may have to raise your prices. I said, I have no problem with raising my prices. And a lot of people, Ali, you notice a lot of people are afraid to raise their prices.
Yeah, and I think that's one of the limitations that everybody's got to work on. You know, you have to know how when to make adjustments, and that's just the way it is. And the beautiful thing is, with different seasons, you can do a promo. I mean, there's a reason people do clearance. You got the big box retailers, the JCPenney and the Macy's. What do they do every major holiday? Clearance, get rid of everything so we can make space, so we can triple charge what we normally are charging right now, right? And the same thing goes for us. But I just want to reiterate for our listeners, the very first thing is make sure you have purpose. If you don't have purpose, you're most likely going to quit. Number 2, go forward and make mistakes. It is human, and it's okay to share those mistakes. And of course, number 3, step up your game. And I want to just double down on that stepping up, please. Many individuals I've worked with and I've seen work on their own. They make just enough success, or they make just enough income, and then they blow it in the club and they say, let's party. We made it, right? Like let me just go ahead and shop, and I believe that's probably one of the biggest flaw of entrepreneurship. We celebrate too early. So reinvest right back into your business, reinvest right back into your initiative, your product. You can always upgrade. You can always do better. And if I can put a little asterisk on that step up piece, I advise everybody to work with a budget, because if you have allocated budgets where you say 10% is for marketing, 10% is for sales initiatives, 20% is variable costs, 10% is fixed costs, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Whether it's $1 or $1 million, those allocated budgets will stay the same, and you will always be organized. That right there, my partner and chief production officer, I mean, the very first thing we sat down, he knows we're about to start a new season. He put the paper right in front of me, and he was like, okay, expenses, services, back, whatever. I mean, he put it all down. It's like, we need to know what we're working with. So no matter how big we get, we are always organized within what we have. And that is something that is very, very, very crucial. We're going to take one more commercial break, because I want everybody to understand the value of Media Boss Pro. And of course, when we come back, we're going to dig into the human being, Dr. Barrett Matthews. We'll be right back.
They called you the boss, chief, CEO. Then they didn't need you anymore. It could have been that you were ready to retire, or maybe they were just ready to move on. Maybe you were burnt out, or just didn't perform to expectations. Regardless of the reasons, they'd moved on, and so have you. But now what? You need a challenge. You didn't become successful by taking it easy. You believe you still have a lot to offer and a lot to share with the business world. At Media Boss Pro, we believe that too. And we want to turn you into the industry icon that you are. With our team of media professionals, we want to make you the go-to person for your business expertise. This means that you will create your own media around you and put you on various media platforms that bear your name and your brand. Imagine all the people who would miss out on what you have to share if you just faded into the background. Now, imagine all the people who will grow and flourish once we make you the business presence you were meant to be. Imagine having your own podcast. Imagine having your own TV channel, your own book, your own media team, and the opportunity to be featured on several TV shows as a guest expert. This is what Media Boss Pro wants to do for you. Set up your call today and become the industry icon.
It's insane to me how in many times we see individuals being edified, whether on the digital side of things, print, or just in person from stages. And the majority of individuals, the large population, will just look at that person and say, wow, and put them on a pedestal. And they assume they never struggled. They never had any obstacles. They've never actually had to go through any sorrow, if you will. And what I've come to learn in my 18-year career in business and in infotainment is that in many cases, most successful entrepreneurs, influencers, content creators, whatever area of success that they have, they failed miserably before they made it to the success. Or in some cases, they're still in the middle of the 40 years in the desert, if you will, before they make it to the promised land. Now, I'm going to ask Dr. Matthews, and I've asked for his permission early on. Hey, is there anything that we don't want to talk about? And he said, nope, I'm an open book. The humanity in him and the humility in him is at his finest. So, Dr. Matthews, I do want to kind of peel. Let's start from, where were you born and what was your upcoming like? Were you part of a big family, small family? Talk to us about your upcoming.
Well, yeah, I actually, I tell people I don't have the hard luck story that a lot of people have. I grew up in the suburban area in Glenarden, Maryland. Those of you who are from Maryland, you may know of Glenarden. It's right outside Washington, D.C. And it was a community. It was mostly an African American community, and it was one of the newer ones when my family moved in. They moved in a year before I was born, and there were four of us. I have two older sisters and one younger brother. My parents married, are still married. They just celebrated 70 years of marriage this year.
God bless.
Yeah, yeah. And like I said, we of course we weren't wealthy, by any stretch of the imagination, but there were no nights we went hungry. There were no days we went without clothes, and we had a roof over our head. My parents are still in the same house that they raised us in. And I just, my father and my mother instilled a lot of great ethics and integrity in all of us, so that we just learned, just to do the right thing, and we just treat people the way we want to be treated. And the great thing about where we grew up is that we had that village that raised the child. Because it was so funny, because this past weekend, one of my neighbors I grew up with, he lives in North Carolina now. He came in town. He came by, visited my parents. And the next door neighbor who I grew up with, he came by. And it just so happened that somebody who grew up in the house behind me was in the neighborhood. She came by to visit. And we all took pictures together, because we still are close to each other. We communicate with each other. And people may not realize it, but that carries on your entire lifetime. The fact that environment is still strong. And then I saw some other childhood friends the very next day. So it's just something that community that we grew up in really helped make me who I am today. I always say it's not just my parents and my siblings or my aunts and my uncles who I'm grateful for, but my friends and my friends' parents who helped mold us, because we all came from the same community, and it really helped make me who I am today.
That's awesome. In terms of business, we kind of got a little bit of an appetizer or a preview, if you will, of how you kind of got into the space that you've gotten into. Can we just go back a little bit to when you kind of got yanked out of that contract? Talk to us about, was it just like, hey, the very next day you looked at something else, or did you have like a little bit of a phase of kind of re-identifying who you are and or you want to be? And talk to us about how you've brought yourself back into where you need to be.
Shock at first, but then I remembered something that one of my college professors said, and that was, "You haven't worked in television until you've been fired." And it came to the forefront when he said that, and I'm like, wow, I guess I've worked in television now. So it was one of those things that I still didn't know what I was going to do next, and I knew because I was renting an apartment from someone. Thank God it was a friend of my family I was renting from, so I didn't have too much big trouble with getting out of the lease. And when I got back to Maryland, I had an interview with ESPN. I had an interview with BET. They wanted me to be a sports producer there. BET just didn't have the budget to hire me, and ESPN, I don't know what happened. It was like a farce interview. They gave me a sports quiz. I'm like, you wanted me to be a producer, but you're giving me a sports quiz. It was kind of funny, but it was just, I was looking for something else to do in television. The sad thing about it, Ali, was that keep in mind, my first two jobs out of college was in Washington, D.C. at the #1 news station, and then at CBS Sports, the network, where my work's being shown all over the world. Other people were afraid to hire me because they thought I was going to demand a whole lot of money, when all I wanted was a job, because I'm fresh out of college. I still had a lot to learn.
You you were gonna pull a Stephen A. Smith on him, because Stephen A. Smith, I don't know, if you know his story. Like, I mean, he obviously was fresh out of college, and everybody thought this loud kid who was gonna ask for a lot of money, but he also just wanted an opportunity. And look at him
Yeah.
now; he is the number one paid.
Now he got the money.
Yeah, which is phenomenal. What's your take on sports today in terms of, you love football, but sometimes it's like, the aggression. And I mean, look, football, from obviously, it's obvious it's not a contact sport. It's what is it? An impact sport. It's a collision sport. Right. Yeah, that's the word I was looking for. So what's your take on it for the way it's becoming? And it's kind of being polarized as well in some cases. What's your take on sports today?
Well, I'm probably the wrong person to ask that, because I'm old school. So I love the hard hitting type of play. I mean, I think eventually, with all the rule changes, eventually we're not going to have football coming in the future. Now, the thing is, I'm old school, but I do understand that players today are stronger and faster than they used to be.
Yeah.
So I do understand that you have to, at some point, reel in the collisions before someone gets killed out there. I do get that. But I'm old school in the sense of some of the rules that, and I'll be honest with you, mainly the rules that protect the quarterback. I think that some of them are ridiculous. If you may as well just be able to just tag them and they're down, because it's ridiculous.
Turn on the filters, Rich, because the comments are coming through right now.
Look at them, blow the whistle. I just hate some of those rules, but I'm old school, so I like the hard hitting game.
Yeah,
I tell people, growing up playing football in high schools, I said, I'm pretty sure I got concussed before.
let me take it a little bit deeper, and this may be controversial. We've seen in the Olympics even recently where there were men or women, boxing. We saw where it just it's no longer. And I think it's important that the players are using their platforms for speaking out against what they believe is to be injustice and whatnot. But how far is too far, for where we are? I mean, at one point, do you see, like, all right, this is ridiculous, basketball is becoming flag, like you can barely touch a player, so are we losing what makes sports, the athleticism and the competition, and somewhat of that hardcore aggression that some sports require?
I think we are to some degree, and I think we definitely have a softening of the games to make it so that it's like, for instance, you mentioned the Olympics. Why the heck is breakdancing in the Olympics? That is not a sport.
You know what's funny? Let me but my wife and I, like, I'm a sports addict. Let me just put it out there. Like, I don't watch TV but sports. Like, that's all I have. And my wife and I were like, how? What how is this? And I know they try to add more viewers. Like, that's the whole purpose of it, right? Like, hey, we can bring the breakdancing community. And then there was a 3v3 basketball and then 2v2 basketball. I'm like, okay, all right, I get it. We're trying to be creative.
Yeah.
I still don't understand, that ball that they throw in and they go with the little broom and they keep scratching.
Curling, yes.
I still don't get it.
I don't get it. I respect it. I have no respect for breakdancing as a sport. It's dance. It's dancing. I mean, it's like, so you think you can dance? Oh, let's give them a medal for that. I don't get that. It should be. And then you said the breakdancing community. The breakdancing community is in their 60s now, because let's face it, breakdancing really got hot 40 years ago.
Run DMC watched the Olympics for
right, exactly. Which I thought was funny, because I don't know if you noticed, what the judges had on Kangol. I'm like, come on, really? Like, when's the last time you saw somebody wearing a Kangol?
Yeah. No, but that's what I'm getting at. Like, we live in a world that there's absurdity is normalized, and is sport sport for the most part has been the one place that you can use as a little bit of a positive distraction and be passionate about something. And it seems to point that even now
Yeah,
sport is becoming more polarized. And look,
I agree.
I believe everybody has the right and should speak on whatever is in their mind, their heart, their spirit. But though I do have my own political views and my own spiritual views and whatnot,
Mhm.
I believe that everybody is to do what's right between them and their creator, as long as they're not
Mhm.
hurting anybody. But it
Mhm.
seems that sports are being more used now to almost activate people for a specific narrative, whether it's,
Yeah.
and again, a Republican or Democrats, I don't
Yeah.
care.
I
To
know
me,
what you
they,
mean.
but it just seems to be more about a message now than it is just about the sport
And
itself.
I don't mind athletes using it as a message when it
Sure.
comes to helping people.
Some of the
When
big changes in the history of the world
that,
have been through athletes. Yeah.
yeah, when it comes to helping people, I don't have a problem with that. The issue is, and it's funny because we're talking about this. The issue comes from the media in general. That's where, because I tell people there used to be an unwritten rule with media and athletes, and that was we report the sports, we talk about the game, we leave your private life out of it because that's your private life. Now it's gone from sports journalism to sports sensationalism, where it's like, how can I get a juicy story on this person? How can I find out something they did wrong? How can I ruin their life? And I'll give you an example. When Tiger Woods had his issue with his wife, is that your business or my business? No. That's a personal matter between a man and his wife and whatever he was doing outside. It had nothing to do with golf. And
But
the
his
media
career has been altered because of that.
exactly. And the media took it and run it because what they want to do is tear you down in the media. So now we control building you back up again. And that's the thing. And
Well,
I just I hate
it's a
that.
business now. I mean, Dr. Matthews, I'm sure you would agree with me from your experience. Um, Positive doesn't sell.
No, and unfortunately, that's the way it is because
You may have
when I came up,
you may have
there
one
were
inspirational story once a year in the ESPYS because of the cancer organization, but that's about it. Other than that,
you're right, man. You're right. But it wasn't always like that, though. That's my point. Is that when I was coming up, there was journalism where we reported the sports, and it was great because, like you said at the beginning, you love competition. That's what it was about then. It's no longer about the competition. It's like, how can we make this a polarizing issue? And how can, like, if you watch these sports shows or these sports podcasts, it's not even about the game as much as it is, do I
how
like
about the
this?
story of the player?
Right, exactly. And they try to
Like
either like them or hate them, one or the other.
put it like this. I've look, Kelsey is from the Chiefs tight end,
Uh-huh.
amazing. He's probably gonna go one of the greats, right?
Oh yeah,
I never knew who he was until he started dating Taylor Swift. I'm just respectfully Chiefs fans.
well, see, I'm on the other side of. I mean, I knew who Taylor Swift was, but to this day, I still couldn't name a Taylor Swift song. So, so I know Kelsey. I've been watching Kelsey for years, but it's
Yeah.
just. But that's the whole thing. But you're not the only one who said what you said, who didn't know who he was. A lot of people, and it's so funny because he's, like you said, he's going to be one of the greatest ever. And I've heard people say, well, she made it so people knew who he was. I'm like, no, he was famous. He was just a famous athlete. Taylor Swift is famous worldwide. I mean, everybody knows that. But it's just funny that she didn't make him famous. She made him more famous.
Yeah. Talk to me about the honorary doctorate. How did that come about?
Well, when I used to host an online radio show, it was called Black CEO Morning Show. And I was host and producer of the show. And one of the guests we had on was a gentleman by the name of Dr. Clyde Rivers. And he runs an organization called I Change Nations. And they promote civility all around the world. He goes different countries. He's been knighted in different places. He's been given all types of awards all over the place. Well, one of my friends who was a speaker, Dr. Ruben West, Ruben did an event in Detroit. And he asked me, was I coming? And I said, yeah, I'll come. I'd been to one of his events before. And he called me again, make sure I was coming. I said, yeah, I'll be there. So I got there and they're giving away all these awards to people. And I was sitting next to a friend and she got an award. She said, yeah, we kind of knew we were getting awards before we came. So they were getting ready to announce a leadership award, and they brought Dr. Rivers up there with Ruben to give out this award, and they were giving these accolades to this person that was getting the awards, and then they called my name, and I'm like, what? So it was like, and I didn't realize the magnitude of the award at first. It's like an international award that people like President of the Lions Club in Africa has gotten this award and so forth. It's like a really big award. Then they called another award, an international award that I received. Both of them were for leadership. And later, I got a chance to talk to Dr. Rivers, and he was saying, you need to put out a press release on this and everything. And I'll be honest with you, I still didn't understand the magnitude of it until like probably months later. And I got a chance to get close to him and talking to him. So he said the next month, he was like, I'm going to be in DC. So I said, well, I got to come meet with you. So I sat down and talked with him. And he says, well, I want you to write a book. And I said, okay. So I want you to write a book on execution. I said, okay. And he said, but I wanted to have an international business feel. So like executing business internationally. I said, okay, I can do that. And he said, and if you do it, I may have an honorary doctorate in it for you. And I'm like, yeah, okay. And that's pretty much how I looked at him. I was like, okay. He goes, you don't know who you're talking to, do you? And I said, I guess not. So I wrote the book. I sent it to him. And he's like, great, I'm going to get this in the hands of some people and so forth. So COVID came around. I remember I'm walking around my block, just getting some air. My phone dings. I look at it. It's a picture of a diploma, honorary doctorate degree. And I didn't know this, but he's a chancellor at a university in Africa. Like he said, you don't know who you're talking to, do you?
Right.
And then 2 minutes later, it dings again. And he named me a World Civility Ambassador at his I Change Nations organization. And you see these certificates back here behind me. That's what they are. And he did that. And then he hit me with the big news. I don't know, maybe a year later, he tells me that he wants me to do a podcast on civility. And I said, oh, great, I'd love to. He said, I have all these people who are dignitaries all around the world, this person, that person. I think I can get them to be guests. I said, if you're going to give me the guest, this is easy. I'll be glad to do it. So we set up a call to talk about who he would send me. And he said, Dr. Matthews, I have some great news for you. I said, okay, cool. He said, well, hold on one second. He said, and he comes back and he said, I got some really exciting news. I said, you went from great to really exciting. I'm intrigued. so he tells me that he was going to be named a development king in a region of Ghana. And I'm like, whoa, I'm going to know a king? I was so excited for him. He goes, yeah, but that's not it. That's not it. I said, that's not it. I was like, what else is there? He says, I want you to be one of my royal advisors. And I'm like, whoa, what? Now keep in mind, before the event in Detroit, I remember I prayed to God that God would put me in position to make an impact around the world. And then this happens. So I remember people ask me, well, are you going to accept that title, that position? I said, I have to. I prayed for this. So I meet with him probably every week. We're working on different things around the world. And see, outside of that, he was with another organization called the African Diasporan Union. They named him a diasporan king. So he's a king that can go all over the continent. And it's really interesting. And I'm still one of his advisors. So we get to work together, and we're putting together some media programs. One is called Media Monarch, where we're going to be able to put a curriculum together to be at universities to help people to have their own voice in media. And so it's going to be a lot of fun working with them. But that's how the doctorate came to be, and working with Dr. Clyde Rivers.
I guess sometimes you just don't know who you're talking to, huh?
You're right. You just don't know. That's really what it was, man.
Yeah, no, that's amazing. And again, I appreciate how you brought it right back and gave glory to God once again. Well, I've had the honor to truly get to learn a little bit more about you with everybody as we speak right now. Obviously, we've interacted. We've spent 45 minutes at a time on FaceTimes trying to figure out some things.
Right. That's our thing.
Yeah, that is our thing, literally. But I cannot thank you enough on behalf of our audience for sharing this information with us. I do know that there are hundreds of articles that are about to be released about your initiatives and everything that you're doing. I will make sure that in the actual copy of this podcast that we have the links to your book, the links to your websites, and every program that you actually have right now, just because I do believe that you have incredible amount of value. And I appreciate how you lead with humility. You know, most people with the accolades and with the experience and the interactions of a network that you have are extremely braggadocious, to say the least, right? Like, oh, look at me, look at who I am. And you carry yourself as the same kid who grew up in the suburbs from humble beginnings. You maintained your core values, and that speaks a lot of volume. And I really, really appreciate that. You know, I'm usually my partner and I are doing you know, humility checks. We force commercial breaks sometimes on people just to like,
I know what you
mean. For crying out loud, like, stop it. Let me tell everybody how great you are. You don't have to tell, you know. So thank you for being you. Thank you for giving the value and the information. And I definitely look forward to you know, collaborating with you. And God willing, when you're in New Jersey, come on out. We are right in Eatontown, New Jersey, about 2 minutes from where they're about to be building the Netflix studios, which we're so excited to be.
New Jersey's nothing for me, man. I'm in Maryland, so
yeah, no, I know. Yeah, I can't wait to have you come up here. And you know, we got a couple of units. We'll do some reels. We'll do some infomercials.
Let's make it happen, man. Let's make it happen.
Yeah, without a doubt. Well, ladies and gentlemen, once again, you have just spent about an hour with Dr. Matthews. He shared the good, he shared the nuggets, he shared the good news, and he gave glory back to God. And he did it so graciously. And from starting at humble beginnings, from just being inspired to be an engineer, to being inspired to be a sports broadcaster, to being inspired to taking industry leaders to industry icons, to working his way to an honorary doctorate, to working with kings and leaders all around the world, and being best-selling author, creating content, podcasts, and so much more. I am very, very privileged and honored that I've had him on this session. And keep in mind, we here at the ME Studios are focusing on you, and we want to help that struggling entrepreneur, whether you are struggling to make $1 or $1 million, to leverage social media and the digital space to create brand equity and revenue. And we know for a fact that we can help you do exactly just that. We've done about $2 billion of sales in the last 18 years, most of it in the last 10 years, expanded companies in 5 continents, and we do it all with humility. We do it all with calm spirits. And I want to work with you. So make sure you visit us at TheMEstudios.com. That is TheMEstudios.net. That is .net network. TheMEstudios.net. And let's talk about how we can collaborate and help you out. Dr. Matthews, until next time, have a blessed day, my friend. Thank you.
Thank you, my friend.
They called you the boss, chief, CEO. Then they didn't need you anymore. It could have been that you were ready to retire, or maybe they were just ready to move on. Maybe you were burnt out, or just didn't perform to expectations. Regardless of the reasons, they moved on, and so have you. But now what? You need a challenge. You didn't become successful by taking it easy. You believe you still have a lot to offer and a lot to share with the business world. At Media Boss Pro, we believe that too. And we want to turn you into the industry icon that you are. With our team of media professionals, we want to make you the go-to person for your business expertise. This means that you will create your own media around you and put you on various media platforms that bear your name and your brand. Imagine all the people who would miss out on what you have to share if you just faded into the background. Now, imagine all the people who will grow and flourish once we make you the business presence you were meant to be. Imagine having your own podcast. Imagine having your own TV channel, your own book, your own media team, and the opportunity to be featured on several TV shows as a guest expert. This is what Media Boss Pro wants to do for you. Set up your call today and become the industry icon.